So quick note about human-centered design and how this process or this mindset is a bit different than what most companies around the world, although it's changing rapidly, but what most organizations and companies around the world do. So traditionally in product design or app design or kind of you name it, service design, companies are really focused on what's feasible and what's viable. And we have a typo there, Adam, so we should fix that. So when we talk about what's feasible, it's what are our systems capable of doing? What kinds of products and services can our company actually develop and offer to our customers? When we talk about viability, what we're looking at is, will these products and services make us money? Are they sustainable? Are they competitively relevant in the market? Most companies are focused on feasibility and viability. What human-centered design, what companies that adopt a human-centered design methodology do, or the mindset of a human-centered design approach, it adds in this third element, which was what we call desirability. And all that is trying to reference is the product or service that we're trying to develop desired by our customers? Not like, is there a general demand for, let's say, a mobile financial service, but is what we're designing really speaking to the needs, the desires, the expectations, the aspirations, the behaviors of our customers? If and when you're able to meet all three of those criteria, that's where true innovation happens. And that's where you're going to find the greatest success, both commercially, in terms of revenue generation, but also in terms of happy, retained customers who are actually using your services. Our interpretation of that methodology is what you see on the slide here. We have a discover phase, that's really our research phase. We have a concepting phase, which is where we generate a whole lot of different ideas and possible solutions that might address the challenge at hand. We then go through a prototyping process, which some of you in the room actually participated in. And then finally, we often do an experiment. And that's something that it looks different depending on the project. In some cases, we actually take a very medical approach and we run a randomized control trial where we have a control group and a treatment group, and we're testing the impact of whatever it is we've designed, whether it be a sanitation system in a slum in Kenya to a mobile phone app in Pakistan. We have ways of actually testing, does this new service or product actually positively or perhaps negatively impact people's experiences, socially, financially, etc. In this case, for the Pakistan project with Karandaaz, our experiment phase, what we're hoping to do, and we have some one-on-one set up with some of you this afternoon, we'd love to find a couple of providers who are interested in adapting these wireframes that we'll show you throughout this morning to your existing apps or to the new apps that you're developing, and actually seeing if improved user experience design and this kind of human-centered approach actually drives not only uptake of mobile financial services, but then increased usage over time. So we're hoping that at least a couple of you in the room will be interested in joining us in a bit of an experiment here in Pakistan. And it might just look as simple as doing some more rigorous user testing. Doesn't have to take the form of a formal randomized controlled trial. I'll say one more thing before moving on. So for some of you, the term wireframe might be a new term. So just to be clear about what Adam's going to be showing and what we are delivering to the market here in Pakistan, we have, and Adam's going to show you all of this, but we have a design toolkit, which is a set of principles, recommendations, icon guides, really like a useful toolkit for any provider that wants to build and distribute a smartphone app for mobile money. In addition, we're actually going a step further, and we're going to be delivering a set of wireframes, which is really a schematic for the structure and functionality of the app. What we have not done, and what we have no intention of doing in this project, is the visual, stylized designs. Each of your organizations has your own brand, your colors, your design principles. You all have very strong points of view. We did not do any testing around colors. I guess a couple of colors we tested so that you'll see. But those of you that have existing brands and will be applying your own brand identities to the apps. We're not touching that. We're not making recommendations about that because we know how businesses work. But the functionality, the flows, the structure of the app, all of that has been tested, and that's what we'll be sharing with you through the wireframes. All right, getting into the methodology a bit. The first thing we did was what we call a competitive audit. So we looked at every single, at the time of our research, which was earlier this calendar year, we looked at every single smartphone app here in the Pakistan market. We also looked at existing smartphone apps in some of the other key markets around the world: India, Nigeria, Kenya, the US, Europe, etc. And we basically did this competitive audit. What are some of the trends that we're seeing, positive and negative, in the markets around the world and in Pakistan with respect to smartphone user experience app design? I will say that at the time we did our research, a couple of the new apps that I know that have come out since were not yet out, so we didn't necessarily look at those. But some of the apps that were already on the market here in Pakistan were really not following kind of best practices, global best practices in user experience design, user interface design. And all of that information is actually shared on the Karandaaz website already. I'm not going to go into it today. But we really did this large landscape competitive audit to see what was already available and what some of the apps here in Pakistan we thought were missing based on global best practices. We held a number of stakeholder interviews with many of you in this room actually, and other providers as well. So from the provider perspective, what does this app need to be able to do? What are some of the challenges the organizations are facing with respect to designing a smartphone app? What are you hoping to get out of delivering and putting a smartphone app into the market? What opportunities does that smartphone app offer to your businesses? Oops, sorry. And then finally, we did a whole set of user interviews. And for us, users included both customers. These could have been existing mobile money customers, former mobile money customers, potential mobile money customers, so people that are not yet using mobile money, but that fit into the target segment that we were looking at. Our user interviews also included a number of agents. So Adam and I work globally around the world in digital finance, and one of the biggest barriers to success for mobile money growth is the agent. The agent is one of the single most difficult pinch points or pain points in the mobile money expansion. So we really need to start considering our agents as, especially in a country like Pakistan with such high over-the-counter OTC usage, we really need to start considering that the agents are a user group that we need to consider as we develop these smartphone apps and any other marketing and delivery channels. Again, I'll share those findings with you in a moment. We went through what we call a concepting process. Concepting for us has 3 phases as well. We did an initial ideation internally, our team, which was just based on our research findings, what are the whole range of potential solutions? It could be as specific as a feature in the smartphone app, or it could be as broad as the structure of an app, a flow, a transaction flow. But we did this very large concept ideation internally and generated kind of hundreds of ideas of what potentially the smartphone app could entail. After a lot of synthesis and discussions with some of the providers, as well as a lot of conversations with Karandaaz, also CGAP at the World Bank is an advisor on this project, we came up with 3 interaction models. 3 kind of broad concepts of what the app could look like, or points of view the app could take, or ways that we could frame the app to interact with our customers. We're not going to go into that today because all of that is actually shared through some of the deliverables on the Karandaaz website. So if you're interested in seeing the evolution of this app over the last 6 months, I encourage you to check out those deliverables. We're going to spare you all of that detail today, though, and just get into where we landed, the final product. After looking at those 3 interaction models, again, we did refinement, and we whittled it down to 2 general concepts. Adam may speak to the concepts. Yes, Adam will speak to those 2 concepts. What we did is we then came back to Pakistan, and we tested those 2 different concepts, those 2 different app ideas with users agents, and we shared them both with, again, many of you in this room. Some of you guys are familiar faces to me now because I've met some of you previously. Our prototype process, so we did a number of participatory activities. On the very back table of the room, we've actually just put on the table some of the card sorting assets that we use to generate feedback. These included things like testing specific icons, testing actual home screens and use case flows, testing different kind of models that we thought we could use to interact with customers. And so it was both paper-based as well as electronic. So the paper-based prototypes are what we call low-fidelity prototypes. We generated a lot of feedback from users and agents using this methodology. But we also use what we call a high-fidelity prototype. So this was not a fully developed app, but we had all of the wireframes designed and on a phone, and it was a clickable prototype so that users could actually be clicking, and we were monitoring where they were clicking, how they were using the app, where they got stuck, where they had success, by watching their interaction on a separate screen. So all of these activities are really useful ways to generate user feedback, to figure out what works and what doesn't work for customers and for agents. And also some of you in the room during our stakeholder interviews on this prototyping trip were able to see the wireframes, the clickable prototypes, and you guys actually gave us feedback as well, which was very welcomed. So all of that led us to where we have arrived today, which is we have combined those two different concepts, what we think the best of each concept was, into one set of wireframes, one point of view, one suggestion for an app for mobile money here in Pakistan. And that's what Adam is going to walk you through in just a few moments. Before we get there, I want to just highlight some of the research findings, because I think it is useful for you guys, as I know, again, some of you have apps in the market already. Some of you are going to be iterating those apps, doing new approaches, new designs. Some of you in the room are just beginning to develop your app. So hopefully these insights provide you some context and some content in terms of how you might decide to design and develop your apps and bring them to market.